Welcome to Honda NX500. The brand new, well, it's been out for a while already, but the model replacing the CB500X that many people love already. I have actually personally never ridden either one of these bikes, so this is a new experience for me, and I welcome you along for the ride. I didn't find that many videos online comparing this bike to any of the competitors using off-road, like the MT450 or even some of the mid-size category bikes like the Tenere 700. I've owned the Touareg 660 and Tenere 700 myself, and I have ridden the MT450, which I have an episode out already on this channel. And I'm gonna be comparing this bike to those direct competitors. Of course, this Honda, as most of us know, is more geared towards road riding, but I'm gonna also assess some of the off-roading capabilities and credential of this bike. Like, how is it to get a standing position on this bike when we get to some gravel roads later in this video. But so far I'm noticing that the bike feels very, very light, pretty much exactly like I remember the MT450 from CfMoto. And the brakes are excellent. Even though this is almost a brand new bike, 300 kilometers on the clock, the brake feel is already really, really good. In this slow speed maneuvering, city riding, this feels pretty much exactly like the MT450 that I remember from this summer. Very nimble and quick to turn. And some of that is of course due to the tires. This has a very road biased tire, which is gonna be a problem in the gravel sections that we're gonna do later. But at least for now, the bike feels really nice to ride. As a commuter, as a city bike, this is probably one of the best bikes you can buy if you just want a basic runabout. But I also feel like this bike might have some legs on off-road riding if you do some modifications, like the suspension setup is not really geared towards off-roading. Especially the travel in the rear is very limited and the ground clearance is not really all that great. But Rally Raid offers a suspension setup for this bike that offers plus 20 millimeters, so basically an inch of ground clearance and suspension travel for both the fork setup and the rear setup of this bike. So that, if you want to off-road, this is probably something I would recommend. I can already say that if you're a taller rider, your knee angle might be a little bit cramped. You might want to look into changing this foot peg setup on this bike to some lower foot pegs to get some more space, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend this bike for anyone above 6 feet tall. So I could go with the taller seat to get some more space to my knees, but it's not bad as it is stock. Very easy bike to ride. I feel like at home immediately on this bike. Okay, fifth gear, it doesn't feel very fast, but it gets there really nicely. I'm gonna do a highway test later on this video, but for now the speed limit is 80, so I can't do much more speed than this. But at this speed, the comfort is really nice, the engine is really smooth. I feel some vibration to my handlebars here, but nothing drastic. When accelerating on 6th gear, it pulls really nicely actually, all the way down from 4,000 RPM. I'm surprised how well this pulls. Yeah, you can basically overtake on 6th gear. It's not gonna be fast, but a relaxed overtake is not gonna be a huge problem for this engine, which is a pleasant surprise to me. Oh yeah, you can definitely feel that the bike has the 1917 wheel combo and street tires, because the bike feels really nimble even at this speed. Changing direction feels really nice, like a naked bike basically. Doing 80 RPM is around 4,000, which is very acceptable for this kind of engine. And the brake feel is excellent, really nice. Tarmac section here, the bike feels really comfortable, and the suspension doesn't feel like it wallows about. It's very planted and very stable. Excellent road bike, I would say. I feel like this cockpit is actually really good for me. Really excellent. I love the riding position. I was kind of skeptical about the riding position, that I wouldn't like it, but let's see in a moment how it feels standing up on this bike. Alright, let's see how the bike is on twisty roads. There's not a lot of sound on this engine. It's really quiet. I can barely hear anything because the wind noise is quite apparent with this windscreen. It's not annoying or anything, but you can definitely notice that there's some wind noise to your helmet. Alright, let's see how it is standing up. Just the travel speed here, and okay, it's not bad actually. I could maybe go for the, if I twist the handlebars a little bit forward like this, it might be a little bit more comfortable standing up, but this is set up very relaxed on maybe road riding. The handlebars a little bit twisted backwards, more than I would like to see, but let's see the bumps here. Alright, not bad at all. Very, it feels a little stiff, but not uncomfortable. Definitely not uncomfortable. I was expecting a very harsh ride on those bumps, like these ones. But no, it's actually surprisingly good. It looks like I can disable the traction control on the move, which is a very nice bonus. But there's not a lot of power to do much of anything with this. This kind of bike with less than 50 horsepower, I don't know if you actually need the traction control, but it is there. The good news is that it's very easy to turn off. Just press this one button here on the dashboard, a little bit longer press on that, and it disables everything except the ABS. The ABS is on back and front. You can't disable those, but if I would buy this bike for off-road use, I would basically just disable it manually, doing some wiring setup and a button here or something to disable the ABS, so it shouldn't be a problem. Wow, this big gravel road here is actually a pleasant surprise to ride this one. It's very comfortable doing 80 kilometers an hour on this kind of surface. This has some bumps and like here some potholes, but no issues, not whatsoever. Wow, I'm really surprised about this, and this feels so light. Let's try the ABS a little bit. Yeah, it works. Yeah, it works really nicely. There's not a lot of power, but that's the same situation with the MT450 and most of the smaller bikes. This feels really slow comparison to Tenere 700 and Touareg 660. This feels very slow, but yeah, it feels really comfortable. I feel like this bike might be a really nice option for anyone that is shorter than 5'9", and that just wants a basic bike that they can travel and take on gravel roads and even do some test riding. I don't think this is ever, with any modification, this is probably not going to be the best off-road bike on the segment, but with some modification I think this can do much more than many people think. This feels like it's very capable as a travel bike as well. Even the sound on this engine is not terrible. It's not like the 270-degree cranks that you find on MT450 or Tenere 700. It doesn't sound that good, but it's not terrible. I think it sounds kind of funny and excited, like a little terrier barking away. It doesn't sound intimidating or anything, but it's fun. It's a fun bike. Alright, the road is getting a little bit smaller. Let's try standing up on the pegs again. Yeah, I feel like I'm standing really tall on the bike, so the foot pegs are quite high, I feel like. But if I try to get an aggressive stance here, like my feet are bent and I lean backwards a little bit, or forwards for that matter, I feel I can get a pretty decent standing position on this bike. Even for my height of 5'8" and a half, this bike feels kind of small. But then again, so does my CrF300. It also feels quite small. The road tires on this are terrible. But let's do some bumps here. Oh yeah, I like this. I like this. This is definitely not bad. The suspension feels a little stiff, and I would think that if you come across some gnarly whoops at decent speed, you might find yourself in a bit of trouble. But it actually kind of reminds me of my Honda CRF when I stand on the pegs. Yeah, the tires on this are definitely not meant to do this, but let's do it anyway. The bike feels really nimble and easy to control in these kind of scenarios. Have to be careful. The rear brake is really low on the bike's frame, so you really have to push to find it. But yeah, the bike feels, well, very slippery here, but still I feel like home in here. I've gotten used to the CrF300, so this bike feels like a heavy version of that bike. It's not bad. It's not bad. Definitely not terrible. But yeah, the rear brake I can't find with my boot, so that requires some setting up. Oh, it's getting slippery with these tires. Very slippery. I wish this had a better set of tires so I can take some more speed here, but I have to take it a little bit easy. If you turn the bike a little bit like this, you can feel that the center of gravity is pretty low on this bike. I don't feel no problem getting this back up from a pretty drastic lean angle. So yeah, the balance on this chassis is quite nice. I approve this standing position even with the stock foot pegs. I do like this. There's no problem standing on this bike. But if you're a very tall person, that's when you might have some problems. But for me and anyone shorter than me, I think this bike feels pretty nice when it comes to the standing position as well. And the same can be said for the sitting position. It feels really comfortable. Yeah, the tires are ridiculously slippery here. As far as I can tell from this off-road section here, the position on the bike is really nice. And what I like about this bike compared to the Transalp 750 is that the bike is not too wide between your legs. So you'll find a really commanding position with your legs and your knees beside the tank on this bike. So that's a big plus in my opinion. There's not a huge amount of power, but you don't buy this kind of bike for power. If you want power, buy the Touareg, buy the KTM 890 or even 790. This is, I think, more comparable to the MT450 from CfMoto what comes to the power delivery. It's getting a little bit dirty already, but I like this white color combo on this bike. It suits the bike's looks very well. I think if I were to buy this bike, I would definitely go for this color. It's really nice. But as you can see, the tires here, these are not made for this kind of environment, so I have to take it a little bit easy. You can definitely see that the stock pegs are very small, narrow, very road oriented, so you have to change these if you want to do any decent off-roading. And as you can see, the brake pedal here is very low, so you can probably lift it up a little bit, but I've heard from owners that it doesn't lift up to the same level of as the foot peg, but some modification from CfMoto is gonna fix that really easily. The gear level is set very low as well. I have a very hard time switching gears on this bike right now, but you can set that up better later when you buy the bike. Really nice. Let's try to find some road and see how it is on the highway. Oh, the traction control is definitely back on. Let's try to switch it off. Let's try to do some throw some gravel. Yeah, it does definitely take it off completely. Let's see if I can put the traction control back on when I'm moving. I can, so you can switch from on and off without stopping the bike, so that's really nice. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's wanting to pull. It feels a little bit sluggish constantly, so it does pick up speed decently well, but it doesn't pull at any RPM all that well. It feels like it's a very slow travel bike. It doesn't want to be aggressive, but that's very normal for this kind of bike, and it's understandable. And if you buy this kind of bike, you want to have a very reliable partner that you can even go around the world, and I think this bike can easily do that. If you want to do some little bit more speed on off-road sections, change the tires, change the rally rate suspension, and you're gonna have a really nice bike for a very low amount of money. I know this bike is very popular with women as well that are a little bit shorter, but I think many guys, especially guys my age and the guys that I ride usually with, they poo-poo this kind of bike because it doesn't bring that hair-raising adrenaline rush that the KTM 690s and PR7s and Tenere 700s and all those bikes do. But I feel like this bike is like a tractor. It's a tool. You can take this around the world in pretty good comfort, and it's just gonna deliver. It's gonna be a tool that you can trust on. Let's do 80. It's hilariously slow. It's definitely slow. But I don't mind that. It's easily getting me to 80 kilometers an hour and keeping me at that speed, no matter the huge headwind that I have at the moment. If this can do the same at 100 kilometers an hour, which we will see in a moment, I think this bike might be a really nice travel companion. At this speed, the wind protection is really great. You could probably improve it with a little bit of a lip here on top, but nothing else is required. The clutch pull on this bike is just as light as my Honda CRF 300. You can pull this with one finger. It's so light. It's actually really fun to use. All right, let's see the highway performance and especially the comfort doing some highway speeds. Alright, I'm doing 110 on GPS, or just about, and the bike still feels very comfortable. The air is still coming to my helmet here. I can hear the wind noise very well. So if you want that to go away, you need a taller windscreen, but still the air to my torso here and my shoulders and my arms. I don't feel much of anything, so it feels really good on the wind protection. And even doing this 100 kilometers, 110 kilometers an hour, the bike still feels very planted. It doesn't feel like it's shaking around, even though it's a very, very windy day. It feels very stable. It feels very nice. I could easily do this all day. It's not bad. It's pretty much equal to Tenere 700, Touareg 660, MT450, even those bigger mid-size adventure bikes. It's very stable. It doesn't vibrate that much, at least doing this kind of speed. And it's very direct. It doesn't shake about even with this wind. And if you want to overtake, it's still pulling at this speed, so you can easily overtake doing 110 kilometers an hour. So very good points from me on the highway comfort on this bike. If I had knobbies on this bike, it would feel a little bit more vague, but with these tires the bike feels really stable, really nice. It feels like a mid-sized adventure bike should feel. I could way easily do this all day. I like this bike. This is it's a fun bike. It's a bike that makes you smile. It doesn't make you any adrenaline rush, but it makes you smile. This feels like a fun bike to ride. It's a plucky little engine. Let's do 100 kilometers an hour here and let's overtake. On 6th gear, I can easily overtake. That's very good, very good. Pretty much all I can expect from this kind of engine size. It still definitely feels like a twin-cylinder adventure bike. And even standing at 100 kilometers an hour, I feel very comfortable standing here. So I can easily just relax and take the pain away from my ass if I'm traveling long distances. You can definitely stand on this bike, even doing 100 kilometers an hour. It's no problem. That was my only I was suspicious of the standing position on this bike, but I'm definitely happy about it. It feels really nice. The gearbox on this bike feels actually really, really nice. Just like my CRF 300, the gears go in so easily and so precisely. You don't have to guess, is it in, is it half neutral or somewhere weird. All the gears go in so nicely. Very nice, very nice. And slow speed riding, oh, it's so balanced. It's just automatically staying up. As a city bike, very good city bike. One of the best I've ridden. It doesn't feel huge. It doesn't feel like it's enormously big, so you can just put it into places that many other bigger bikes don't want to go. In between cars and everything, this feels really, really small and narrow and very, very nimble. So as a city bike, I give this a very, very high points. 10 out of 10 basically. As a city bike, very, very good experience. As a highway cruiser, pretty comparable to the MT450, Tenere 700, Touareg 4. Of course, those bigger 700cc bikes are gonna have more power, so they feel more at home. But highway cruising at 110 kilometers an hour, very comfortable place to sit this one. Like, I've ridden 70 kilometers on this test ride. I don't feel my ass getting numb. I don't feel my hands or anything getting out of place or the ergonomy being bad on this bike. I feel like this bike is well suited for anyone my height and my proportions. Even someone shorter than me are gonna feel at home on this bike. I can reach the ground very easily, and the bike is very well balanced, so it's easy to control when coming to a standstill or anything. This is a very beginner friendly platform. It's one of the easiest bikes to ride, I would say, that I have ever ridden. But I think like most people buying this bike are buying it with their brain and not their heart. But that's not a bad thing at all. This bike is in all aspects a very, very good multi-purpose bike. You can travel long distances, you can use it as a commuter bike. It's not gonna cost a lot to run. Only negative I can say, for a taller rider, this might feel a little bit cramped, this cockpit. For me it feels perfect, absolutely perfect. But for someone taller than me, like 180, 190, even 2 meters tall, they might feel that this bike is a little small and it might not be for them. But anyone like this height and shorter, this is fantastic. Very good place to sit. Really comfortable place to sit, and maybe put some crash protection to the engine, because the engine sides here are very, they reach very far away from the bike center, so protecting this area is a very good idea. And it does need a bash plate, but with some minor modifications I think this bike is very, very capable. And it already comes with the LED headlights, and the running lights are also in the front blinkers, which is really nice, the same as my CRF 300. That's a good safety feature to have. And the blinkers are really narrow here, protected by all the plastics and everything, so they are not gonna break very easily. There's really good grab handles here if you do off-roading and if you have to lift the bike up. Excellent, really good bike, really good small-ish adventure bike for anyone that is proportionally restricted like myself. The engine is probably the only thing negative on this bike. It doesn't feel exciting, it doesn't really extremely powerful. Of course it's not gonna feel like that, but I think I expected the engine power to be a little bit more snappy, and it is a bit of a letdown on this bike. But maybe with the fuel mapping you can get some more pep to it. But maybe the engine is the most negative part of this bike. But it's very stable, it's very low vibrations, it feels like a capable platform. So as a workhorse, the engine is plenty enough for most riders, but it's not exciting.